What's up guys, welcome back to Fancy Goldfish Fanatics. Today we are adding some amazing fish and invertebrates to the Dream Reef Tank, so make sure you stay tuned to find out more. Hey Fanatics family, welcome back. As always, check out those links in the description. Today we are adding some awesome fish and invertebrates to the Dream Reef Tank. As I mentioned, so we have this box which is full, yes, completely full of different things that we're going to be adding to the tank. So these guys have been in this box, this poly box, inside this cardboard box all day. So we are going to be doing a slightly different method of acclimation because they're definitely going to be quite sensitive when they're going into the tank, and I want to make sure they have the best chance possible. So generally I would always acclimate with the lights turned off, but obviously you guys aren't going to be able to see, so I'm going to keep them on just for you guys. But let's start having a look at what we've got inside this poly box. So I'm just going to try and open it for you now, and then we can have a look what's inside. So I'm probably not going to be doing too many updates on the Dream Reef Tank. I'm only going to be doing sort of update videos when I've got some large sort of stock levels to go into the tank. So let's start off with some inverts. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to open the lids on the tank and let these new guys temperature acclimate. So I want the temperature in the bag to be the same as that in the tank. So first off, we've got some trochus snails. So there's about 16 trochus snails in there. What else have we got? So in here we have a female peacock wrasse. Hopefully you can see that, but these are kind of double bagged, so they're quite difficult to see. Then we have a fire shrimp. Hopefully you guys can see all of this on the camera, but this is a fire shrimp, otherwise known as a blood shrimp. We have got a cleaner shrimp, so these are kind of a peppermint sort of looking shrimp with the red and white. Next up we have a pincushion sea urchin. This is kind of a pinky lavender colour, and this is hopefully going to be grazing on the rocks, cleaning up all of the algae. Here we've got another cleaner shrimp. Here we have another fire shrimp or blood shrimp. In this bag we have another sea urchin. Now this is a blue tuxedo sea urchin, quite small, and he will get probably double the size of that. Hopefully I'm not going to have to take any water out of the tank as it is getting quite full with all of these bags going in. Next up we have another cleaner shrimp. What else have we got? So here we have some red or orange-legged hermits. Now there's 10 of those to go in the tank. You may have saw the other cleanup crew that we added previously to the tank, and I'm just restocking, adding a little bit more because this is such a big tank, and I reckon in about a month and a half I'm going to have to add some more again. So we've got some different cleanup crew from last time, and we're also going to be acclimating them slightly different. I want to show you a different way of acclimating your invertebrates as well as the fish, so you've got different methods to choose from. Here you can see we have a emerald crab, and then in this bag we have 3 peppermint shrimp. Now peppermint shrimp are supposed to eat, or hopefully will eat, any aptasia, and aptasia is a pest anemone that we can sometimes get in marine tank. Now I don't currently have any, but they are a good cleanup crew and they are really good to have anyway. In this bag we have 5 bumblebee snails. You probably can't quite see them. These guys are really good at eating vermitid snails, which will generally occur in reefs as well, similar to the aptasia. What have we got in this bag? So this bag we have a type of wrasse. Now this wrasse is actually part of a pair and probably one of the most exciting fish I'm putting into this tank. It is actually a deep water species, and after doing a bit of research online, these haven't come up that much, and I could hardly find anything on Google about them. So I'm really excited to get them in the tank, and I'm really hoping that they do well. And now this is the male of that pair. You probably can't see too well on camera, but it's a really striking colour, and hopefully as he settles into the tank, the colours will just improve. Here we've got another blood shrimp, or another fire shrimp. As you can see, we are really filling up the tank today. And now onto some of the fish. We have a male peacock wrasse. So we've already got the female in there, and this is the male, because hopefully they'll pair up. Then this one, we've got, what have we got? So this is a Timor wrasse. It's a sort of orange and green kind of colour. And then last, but definitely not least, we have our radiant wrasse, otherwise known as an iridis wrasse. Hopefully you can see that on camera. So as these guys have been in this box, or this poly box, all day long, I'm going to let them temperature acclimate for around 20 minutes. And then what we're going to do is we're going to do a variation of the drip method, where we're going to be slowly adding water into a bucket. I'm going to separate all of the invertebrates, separate all of the fish from the invertebrates, but they'll all be in 2 buckets. All of these guys have come from exactly the same water, fish-wise and invertebrate-wise. I don't want to get any of the water from the bags of the fish in the tank, especially because it will likely have some sort of copper medication, and I definitely don't want that going into my reef tank. Now, I'm not too fussed if any water from the invertebrate bags go into the tank. However, because these fish and invertebrates have been in these bags for a good 7-8 hours, there will definitely be some sort of ammonia and nitrogenous waste build up within the water. So I really want to try and minimize any water that comes into contact with the reef. So as I mentioned, we're going to let these we're going to let these temperature acclimate for 20 minutes. Then we'll get our drip method set up, and then we can add them to the tank, and hopefully we'll be able to get some awesome shots of them once they're all in the tank. So I will catch you guys in a bit. So as you can see now, I've got a towel down because I'm sure we're going to get wet. I've got 2 buckets, one for the inverts, one for the fish. I've rinsed these out with salt water to make sure there's no contamination in there. I've also got a pipeline, I've got a net, and I've got some scissors. Now, we aren't going to be doing the conventional drip method, as personally I don't think it makes a huge amount of difference. All of these fish and all of the inverts are from the same system, so they're going to be absolutely fine in their own buckets, and they're only going to be in there for 20-30 minutes, something like that, just while they acclimate to the tank's water parameters. Now, generally the drip method, you'd have a piece of airline going into this bucket, and it would drip for an hour, sometimes 2 hours or even longer. Now, the problem with this bucket can slowly lose heat, especially if you have a big differential between your tank's temp and your room temperature. So I prefer to do it with a hose like this, and every sort of 5 minutes I'll put the hose in, I'll put about an inch worth of water, and it's not too much of a shock to the fish or the inverts. I'm only really doing this method as they have been in the bag for quite a while, and these inverts can be a little bit sensitive. So now I'm going to run the time lapse. I'm going to get them all in their buckets, all of the water in there, and then we're going to slowly start adding the water. I'll probably have too much water in the bucket, so I will have to empty some of it out with a bit of a Tupperware or a cup or something. I'm going to get onto that now, and then hopefully in around half an hour to 45 minutes we can get them added to the tank. As you can see, with all of these bags around me, I've got all of our inverts in the bucket here and all of our fish in the bucket here. Now, the fish are very stressed as they have been in these bags for quite a while. These bags were packed with pure oxygen. So generally, when you are debagging fish that have been in the bag a long time, the ammonia levels can rise, and there's lots of people that will say if you open the bag after overnight shipping and let the water slowly acclimate in, that you can have some spikes in ammonia levels as that pH rockets up, which can cause the fish real stress and even kill it. However, with the marine fish, they aren't producing as much urea, as they do not take as much fluid into their body and pass it through their system as they are saltwater fish. They are preserving what's in their system. With freshwater, they are pumping lots of fluid through their system and producing a lot more urea. Also, the water is slightly different. We have lots more hardness and sort of more chemical compounds going on. So the same effect does happen, but not at an extreme rate. However, I do want to get these fish out of this water as quickly as possible, so at a safe level. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some of the tank water to both these buckets. We'll give it 5 minutes, then we'll repeat, and I'll keep repeating that until the buckets are nearly full. I've changed some of the water out, and then we can get them into the tank. So you can probably see I'm a little bit stressed because we have quite a lot of livestock in these buckets. So I'm just adding a little bit of tank water to these buckets, and then hopefully in around half an hour, 45 minutes, we can get these fish and these inverts into their new home. I'll try and bring the camera a little bit closer. It is quite dark over here and I don't want to spook the fish out too much, but I'll try and show you what I can see in the buckets. I'll have a little bit of a tidy up and then I'll catch you guys in a minute. As you probably can notice, I've now turned the lights on just so you guys can get a good view of the fish and the invertebrates in the buckets. I've also got the blue bowl because I'm going to be decanting some of this water as the buckets start to rise. Generally, as the water gets to the top, there is a high chance these fish could jump out, and I definitely don't want that to happen. I don't want any damage occurring to these fish as they are very sensitive species. So I'm going to start decanting some of the water out of the buckets, but quickly I'm going to show you what the fish are looking like before they get into the tank. In that clip, you may have noticed some of the fish look like they were lying on their side, and this is actually a stress response. They are trying to basically, one of the snails has tried to escape from the bucket. Let's put him back in. So this is actually a stress response. They'll be really stressed out and they have their stress coloration as well. But don't worry, as soon as they go into the tank, they will be right up the correct way. I'm just going to start taking some of this water out of these buckets now into the blue bowl. It is always good to have multiple buckets on hand if possible, and generally I could have probably acclimated these guys in 4 or 5 buckets, but I chose to just do 2, simplify things, get it done as quickly and efficiently as possible. That is really the key thing to do here. They have been acclimating in this water for around 5 minutes now, so I'm going to add a little bit more without getting a mouthful of water. I'm sure many of you guys watching have definitely got a mouthful of water, and a mouthful of salt water is even worse. So I'm just going to repeat this process probably, every sort of 4 to 5 minutes, maybe around 8 to 9 different times. And then once these buckets are generally pretty full, we can net up the fish because we don't want that medicated water going into the tank, and then we can sort of scoop out most of the inverts and disregard most of the water. So I'm gonna do this, as I said, maybe 8 to 10 times, and then I'll catch you once they're fully acclimated and ready to go into the tank. So I've brought the camera a little bit closer so you can finally see me release the fish. They have been acclimating for around 40 minutes. In the end, I put some water in with this hose around 8 times into the bucket. I managed to fill this bucket up 4 times, so I added some water in, waited a few minutes, 5 minutes, then I decanted some with the jug. So I'm just mixing that water all of the time, making sure there's no build-up of any waste that was in the bags, because obviously they are still in their bag water, and I wanted to efficiently get that changed out of the buckets. So they are acclimated now, and I'm ready to get them into the tank. As I mentioned before, the drip acclimation isn't my favourite method, but in this situation, this method was appropriate. Although it wasn't the proper drip acclimation, this is sort of my take on it. Now, you may have your own acclimation methods at home, and there are many different acclimation methods. Some people just love getting the fish in the tank, not acclimating them, and it does have a success rate. So There are lots of different ways, but without further ado, let's get the fish in the tank. This is going to be a little bit stressful, and I'm really hoping none of these guys jump out. But I'm going to be using a net because, as I mentioned, I don't want to transfer any of this water into the tank. And then for the inverts, I'll use a net for the shrimp, and then the snails and hermits, I can probably use my fingers or my hands. So first up, let's see who we can catch, and I hope we don't get any jumpers. So the first one is the iridis wrasse, or the radiant wrasse. There we go. So that's the first one. Now, these guys are probably going to hide straight away. Who knows? So I'm not sure what kind of footage I will be able to get of them, but we will try our best. Next up is the pair of, I believe they called them red cap wrasse, but I will put a little picture on the screen of their scientific name and the image I got on Google, and they are absolutely beautiful. I absolutely love those. They're probably my favourite fish going into the tank. And we've got to hope the two wrasse that we already have in the tank don't bully the new inhabitants. But I chose to do a wrasse only tank because less susceptible to parasite issues, because they do have quite a thick slime coat. So that was the Timor wrasse that just went in, and hopefully now we will be able to get the pair of peacock wrasse in the tank. So we've got the male and female pair, and so far the fish have made it pretty nice. Oh, the male wrasse straight into the sand bed, and the female will probably follow suit. And there is no fish in the tank. It looks completely empty, even though we've added all 6 fish. So now what we're going to do is start adding the invertebrates. So first up, we've got a cleaner shrimp. There we go. Now these fish are probably going to hide sometimes even for 2 or 3 weeks. They will come out for little lengths of time, and they will be used to the acclimation lighting at the shop or the wholesaler, for example. So they will take many weeks to get used to my sort of photo period. And this is kind of similar to us when we go to different countries and we get that sort of jet lag. It is quite a similar thing for the fish. Hopefully that shrimp will let go. And let's get some more cleaner shrimp in. That one looks like it's got a little bump on its side, but hopefully he'll be alright. And now let's grab one of these urchins out. Hopefully he'll let go. Come on, mate. I'll quickly show you this guy. Oh, he's got all his sticky feet. So that is a pin cushion urchin. Let's get him in the tank, and he'll hopefully get to work on the rocks. Last of the shrimp is one of the blood shrimp or fire shrimp, however you would like to call them. If he will let go of my net, there we go. And now we've got lots of snails and hermit crabs, which are all going to be, oh, and we've got the emerald crab. Let's try and get that emerald crab in. So the emerald crab is basically a green version of those crabs you would see at the beach, but just a very small one as well. We've also got the peppermint shrimps. So it wasn't the last of the shrimp. It's really hard to see in this bucket because it is quite dark. There's one. And they will probably disappear into the rocks, and I will likely never see those ever again. But they normally come out at night. They are really reclusive shrimp. There's the other two. Let's see what we can get now. Let's get that other sea urchin. If I can. So this is the tuxedo sea urchin. Pop him in. And now we've got lots of snails which are all stuck to the bottom, and lots of hermit crabs as well. So I'm just going to drop those in the tank. And they'll be able to right themselves and hopefully get to work on the rocks. So if I drop some on the rocks as well, even though they'll be able to find their own way, sometimes it's good to just spread them around the tank. So we've got a mix of Trocus, Bumblebee, and red or orange leg hermit crabs. Nearly there, and then hopefully probably in a couple of days I'll try to get some good shots of the new inhabitants in the tank, because I'm sure they're going to be hiding for ages. But I'll see what I can do. I think that is everything acclimated, nothing in the net, nothing in either bucket. So we have got everything into the tank finally, and I can relax a little bit now. So as I mentioned, we're going to get probably a few shots, maybe a few videos in a couple of days, hopefully once all of the fish are out and active, fingers crossed. So thank you, I will catch you guys in a bit.
One eternity later.
And here we have it, finally the fish have settled in for a few days. I couldn't quite get all of them on camera because a lot of them were hiding quite a lot of the time. And actually I figured out a few of them only come up for a few hours and then go straight back to bed, luckily for them. But you can see the majority of them are swimming around the tank, and I'm really happy with them. You can really see the water clarity from this shot, and they're doing absolutely great, already feeding and super active. Also, the corals are doing really well now, and the tank is really starting to bed in and slowly mature. And hopefully when we do the next large fish or invertebrate haul, we will have an even better selection of corals to show you as well. So overall, really happy with how the tank's getting on, and I cannot wait to see what it looks like in 3 to 6 months once it's completely full of coral and we've got some more fish and a bit more action going on in there. So that is the end of the video. Thank you all for watching. Remember to keep those water changes up, and happy fish keeping.